Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. He just fixed his eyebrows. He is ready to rock and roll. My man, Trevor Anderson. Two claps. Give me one of those.
How we doing, baby?
Don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging.
I got you, baby. Hey, two claps.
Yeah. There we go. So before I dig in, give me the origins of the two claps, right? Because your name is Trevor Anderson. I affectionately know you as TA, but your kind of rallying cry wherever you go is two claps. Where did that begin?
Well, a long time ago, I have to give credit to a mentor of mine, Coach Charles Brinkerhoff. He was actually Vince Carter's high school basketball coach, where they won state championships and all that type of stuff. You know, Vince Carter, soon to be Hall of Fame Vince Carter. And, he said once or twice, I heard him say two claps. And then I remember I saw how effective it was at getting a hold of the masses. You know, I used to help run Vince's basketball camps, and we had, sometimes 450, 500 kids at these camps. And I saw how effective using just two claps can get everybody back to an attention. So I asked him one day, I said, Coach Brink, do you mind if I use two claps on a regular, everyday basis? He said, TA, I would be honored. I'm sure you can do it better than me. So I said, thank you so much. And that was in the year 2000. So here we are 20 years later, 21 years later, and I'm going, hey, two claps. And I know I can get everybody back to center, prepared for the next instruction. And hey, it helps generate, maintain, cultivate, and enjoy the energy that surrounds it. So that's why I love it.
I can't believe that's the first time I've actually asked you that, but it
yeah,
works.
Man, you've been, what kind of friend are you, man? Come on, man. You got to know about the two claps.
I've seen you do this in person with hundreds of like high school football players at several Under Armour.
Right.
And it's just amazing how simple that can be as a tool for coaches to get attention and rally the troops. So I think that's absolutely amazing. So on that note, let's get the formalities out of the way. I'm very, very excited, Trevor. It's been a while since I've seen you, and welcome to the show, for lack of a better word. So for those of you who are joining us and may not know Trevor Anderson, he lives in Orlando. He's got the Better Everyday Performance Centers, soon to be 2 of them. So congratulations on your expansion. And it's really hard.
We just started in the second one, so we're up and running the second one, and we're rocking and rolling. So we're fired up.
And that's awesome. And specifically in today's current climate, when unfortunately a lot of our colleagues in the industry are being forced to shut down facilities, as always, you're breaking the norm and you're making decisions that most people probably wouldn't in times of adversity. So that just goes to show, for me, your work ethic. You're one of the hardest working individuals in the industry that I've ever worked with. And so it's just so incredible to see your hard work come to fruition. It's really hard for me to put into words just what it is that you do. So most importantly, you're a friend, you're a mentor, you're a performance coach, specifically in the areas of pro football, baseball, basketball, and you work with pro athletes from NFL Super Bowl champions right to training your own kids. And I've seen your ability to work with any age and any ability in the areas of sports performance. You're a TRX master trainer, you're a master trainer for SPRI. And when I was building the Under Armour training team, it's like, I got to have TA on the team, right? Because you're a great leader, TA. You're humble, you're a hard worker, and I've just seen the work that you do with people every day. And your work ethic is incredible. And might I add, for those of you watching us, that Trevor was recently named one of the top 50 best golf fitness trainers by Golf Digest. And he's also the creator of GOLFleticism, right? So, that's a pretty specialized area. So talk to us about GOLFleticism. What is that?
Yeah. Well, GOLFleticism is truly what it sounds like: golf and athleticism. And, I learned many years ago, I was always fascinated. My college roommate played golf, and my thing was, I just wanted to hit the ball as far as I could. I thought it would be cool to be like a long drive guy and stuff like that. Fast forward about, I would say, 5 or 6 years, or probably about 10 years after college, I remember looking up and going, man, I'm starting to train golfers now, professional golfers and otherwise. And, everybody wants more rotational power and they want to swing and hit it harder and farther. But I started to realize that it really was about stability, how we connect with the ground, and then mobility, and then coordination. And then I also began to realize how much that parallels, all sports, right? It's really about moving the body athletically. We're in a sport that was traditionally a sport that people said, when you're not athletic, you play golf. I beg to differ. I started to see how important athleticism was in the game of golf and how I could use to enhance that and actually utilize aspects of what I've been teaching for years, right? Aspects of performance, stability, mobility, and coordination. And I could use those aspects, put a very similar training regimen, and allow golfers to improve. Now, obviously, the top portion of the skill set, it needs to be, just designated for golf. But as it relates to the strength, the anaerobic endurance, the power, the speed, the sequencing, all of that stuff really relates to a lot of sports across the board. And I said, man, I'm finding a lot of success training golfers in a very athletic way. 70% of what I do is something similar I would do with a football player or a baseball player or a soccer player. And I'm able to do that in the sport of golf. And it kind of was revolutionary at the time. But to me, it just made perfect sense. And I found a lot of success with my people just adding athleticism to the golf world. There it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think, and in recognition of what you've done with golfers, you're a regular contributor to the Golf Channel and Golf Digest, and you're one of the go-to individuals specifically for increasing fitness and performance among golfers. And specifically we've seen in recent years, Tiger Woods' transformation when he decided to take his health and conditioning a priority. You see someone like Steph Curry, who's an amazing basketball player, and his golf game is spot on. Right. Like people say, if he wants to transition pro golf, he actually could. So on that note, TA, you hear this kind of word, sports specific training, right? And I know we've had this discussion before, and you kind of alluded to it a minute ago where, some of the best athletes in the world, there's the skill of the game, which is the catching, the throwing, the hitting, but then there is the out of game conditioning. So when someone says sports specific training, do you think that applies across all sports, or does it need to be different between a golfer or a football player or a baseball player? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think sports specific it's definitely necessary, but I think traditionally when we hear that term, the industry kind of thinks that every move that you do needs to be specific to the sport. The reality is you need to build a base foundation of athleticism, of functional movement, of foundational movements. You have to be able to squat. You have to be able to lunge. You have to be able to, single leg balance. You have to rotate. You have to hinge. You have to do all of these things really, really well. Now, you have to rotate, hinge, squat, and lunge as a pitcher. You have to do the same thing as a quarterback. You have to do the same thing as a PGA Tour player. You have to do the same thing if you're playing cricket. So to say sports specific and think that there's one specific set of exercises just for a cricket player and one specific set of exercises just for a volleyball player, I think that's missing the boat. I think 70%, I've always used 70% as kind of a number for me. 70% of the exercise, the fitness and performance exercises and movements that I do with every sport. And no matter what their sport or activity is. If it's a daily person who they're a weekend warrior or training is their sport, 70% of what I do is very similar across the board. Now, when you get into that top 25 and 30%, it starts to become more refined, right? We start to gear things more in the direction of what an outfielder might need in baseball or what a wide receiver might need in football. And that's when things start getting more sport or movement specific. But to think that you can categorize one sport with these exercises, one sport with these, I think is missing the boat. But 70% of what I do is pretty much the same across the board because everything has to do with some of those main elements of foundational movements.
I love it. And that's the first time I've ever actually heard someone put kind of a percentage on it. And I like that, the 70-30 rule. And I would completely agree with you. My philosophy around training certainly has changed over the years. And the way I approach that stuff now is completely different. So I really love that philosophy, right? Because if you can't move well, it doesn't really matter what your sport is. Once you can nail those foundations, now you can start to maybe insert 30% of your exercises as it relates to the positional requirements of that sport. Love that rule. Love that rule. One thing I was really impressed, I'm impressed by a lot of things that you do, but we had a big presence last year at Idea World in the Under Armour booth, and you delivered a session on speed training for basically group fitness professionals and personal trainers. And I was really curious as to how you were going to take something like speed and agility, which most people would think, okay, this needs to be saved for the pro athletes. I don't think speed and agility training needs to be used for our everyday athletes. And you had a really unique approach around speed and agility. And I'm going to try not mess up your quote, but I think you said something along the lines as smooth is fast and fast is smooth. Did I get that right?
No, loose is smooth and smooth is fast.
That's it.
And what I mean by that is, like if you create like unnecessary tension, it's hard for you to be fluid. If you think of the best athletes in the world, think of through the years, just think of a Jerry Rice. Nobody talks about how powerful and strong he was, but they talk about how well he moved, how he just floats about the field, how he runs such amazing routes, and how it seems like he's just floating on air. The best athletes in the world are so fluid. You watch Ken Griffey Jr. swing. I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with Ken Griffey Jr. just talking to him about some of the biomechanics that he understands from that side, but some of it he just has, and he just flows because nobody ever interfered with that process, right? We all athletes have a natural flow to them, and I think as performance coaches, we need to be able to help facilitate what they already bring to the table, right? And so it's a fluidity. You can't be tight, you can't be rigid, you can't be tense. If I'm a wide receiver and I come across the middle and I'm tense, I'm more likely to drop the ball. So if I stay loose, I can come out of that break, out of that route smooth. If I'm smoother, I'm going to be faster. So there's an effortlessness, there's a fluidity, there's a liquidity, if you will, to movement that when I look at movement organically, that's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to help athletes get out of their own way, take away the restrictions so they can move with fluidity and with ease. And that's what I mean by loose. If you could stay loose here, right? And that filters down to the body. So loose is smooth, and that smooth factor is going to start to release that speed. It's going to unlock some of that speed that you might not even know you had.
I love that. I love that. And it when you think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? And I think sometimes as fitness professionals, sometimes we get in our own way. We overthink things. We try and make things too complicated. Talk to me about, I've seen your facility. It's absolutely amazing. You've got an open air facility. You could close the door if you need to based on the weather. But your facility is designed, what's the word? I mean, the word functionally is kind of not the word, but it's got only what you need. There's nothing fancy in your facility. You have modalities that allow your working moms to your weekend warriors to your pro athletes get better every day. So let's talk about speed and agility. Let's about being smooth as fast. What type of modalities do you like to use when you're developing speed, agility, and quickness? Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, to your point of the facility, I believe in open spaces. I believe in not jumbling up a beautiful space with a bunch of stuff. And the stuff that we do have is mobile enough to move from one place to the next. We do have some foundational aspects, some racks and stuff, but being able to have the freedom to use your functional tools. I love using medicine balls and kettlebells, and make no mistake. Now we get up underweight, we squat, we clean and jerk, and we do all of those things, Olympic lifts and all. But I use a lot of sleds, and not necessarily heavy sleds. I like resisted sprinting, but we break it down into a couple different aspects, right? So you have, I train a lot of NFL combine guys and things of that nature. So what we're trying to do with them is we're breaking it down into a start, a transition, and then a maximum velocity, right? So the starter and the acceleration, kind of use that together. Then the transition from acceleration to, raising themselves up, transitioning to maximum velocity. Now in 40 yards, you don't, obviously get a chance to go too long into max velocity, but we're trying to help a smooth transition. And the way that we do that is we add light resistance. I like loading around the waist, right, as opposed to the torso, because I don't like them fighting against something that's trying to pull them back. But I like to create great body angles, moving from the hips. Sometimes I like elastic resistance to stay in place to focus on that frequency or that maximum velocity. But sometimes I like to load it up and go from a more stop position to add for acceleration. So if I add, 10 to 15%, sometimes 20% if we're feeling real frisky, I like to use that for an acceleration phase to help them understand how to generate better ground force, create better body angles. Sometimes you have to add weight to help them achieve a certain body angle that they might not otherwise have experienced to their own devices, right? And then when you take that away, they have a competency, a physical literacy of how to get into those angles. So sometimes we use the resistance to create angles, And sometimes we use them to reinforce good positions, good frequency, a good body, and good posture, and so forth.
Okay. Talk about, you mentioned, you've used sleds. Obviously, you get underweight, do Olympic lifts, but I know we both have experience with elastic resistance. So talk about what you see as the benefits of elastic resistance.
Well, first off, elastic resistance gives you the ability to load the body up while maintaining a running form, especially if it's not, the way that I do elastic resistance. And listen, I don't think my way is the only way, Dan. But the way that I do it, I like to give a light bit of resistance, because I like to make sure that it's not compromising the normal running mechanics by too much. And if you add too much resistance, sometimes you can compromise the normal running mechanics. I like to do it to enhance what we're trying to do. So elastic resistance to me is important because it's a variable resistance. So the closer when you start, it's a certain resistance. But as you pick up speed, that means you're getting farther away from the anchor point. The resistance picks up with you, right? Which is a little bit different than when you're using just gravity and just body weight, where, once you start to displace your body mass, things start to get lighter and lighter, but you're still expected to produce force. I like to try to create a variable resistance to allow people to be able to feel what it feels like to continue to produce force against resistance. But I also transition from there, and then I take it off and I allow them to run free so that their brain can understand the transition from the motor pattern side of things, So if I can see that I can do this against resistance, maintain the same body angles without the resistance, then the elastic resistance worked for me positively. And I've seen a lot of success with that, Dan. People don't know what they don't know. A lot of people just run. And then the first time they ever had to really do it for a time or run for the most important assessment of their lives, now they're thinking about all these things. My goal is to take what they do naturally, add a little bit of variable resistance to it that allows them to maintain the proper form and technique, and it allows them to get better. And we found pretty good success in doing so.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you've had your eyes on the Raptor for some time. I know it's kind of on your wish list on one of the modalities that you certainly want to get in your facility. And I can certainly tell you, from my experience on the Raptor, how it can transition from not only just your weekend warriors into your, to the moms who are coming 3 times a week and joining in your group fitness classes, all the way up to your professional athletes. The portability, right? The reliability of that piece of equipment is, in my opinion, second to none, and how it can transition. And I think as a studio owner like yourself, when you're looking at adding pieces of modalities, it's like, what's the modality that can give me the biggest bang for my buck, that can transfer across all of my clients and all of my athletes? And I think
again, it's that piece that is not in one place, that is some big, structure that has to be permanent in one single place. There's the opportunity to have mobility, put it over here, put it over there. And with a 30-yard turf inside of our facility, it gives us plenty of room to be able to do that, but also put it away when it's time to stop using it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like your philosophy too around the fact that you're also getting your athletes under load, right? You're moving some weight, you're moving some iron. And I think it's really important that all athleticism has this base from pure strength, right? And there's a point in, quote unquote, the periodization or the year of a certain athlete when it's good just to get underneath some load. And I think psychologically, it's really important for athletes to see them, to be able to see something tangible, that I'm lifting more load and I'm getting better at this movement. So talk about the psychology of that you use with your athletes, and when and where do you put that in? Do you have a strategy around it? Do you kind of go by how they move or how they're feeling? And so let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So first off, I always say you get your mental toughness through your physical challenges, right? There's nothing that's going to test the metal more than you getting up under some weight and moving something that makes you uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not big on seeing how much we can lift at all times. There are times, listen, look, I understand that lifting heavy weights and maxing out and stuff is part of the football environment. I have a son who plays college football. We went through a whole phase just recently over this last fall, since they didn't have a season, where it was about getting to where you peak, in December and you do a max, right? And he destroyed all of his maxes, right?
I
But
saw that. Fantastic.
yeah, he's been doing great. I mean, and all the other guys in the group have been doing great too. But there's something to that gives you a confidence when you see yourself lift 50, 60, 70 pounds more than you did 2 months ago. It does something for the conscious, for the psyche, that that you can probably do more than you expected to be.
Oh.
Challenges. But for the most part, my general philosophy, I study really. Are we there? We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Really being able to study how athletes respond when the anaerobic endurance is challenged, the power endurance, right? Because our anaerobic system is only meant to last so long, maybe 30 seconds max, and then oxygen has to really take over. And at what point can you continue to go, right? So it's not just weight. It's not just how heavy a weight is that challenges you physically to get that mental response, but how long can you move something that's at moderate weight, right? Like how long can I push it? When we start talking about pushing sleds and boxes, that's an anaerobic beatdown. I do it to see how long we can maintain good angles and positions and how we can hold off that lactic acid buildup and how we can keep going. And there's a part that you're going to get super uncomfortable. And can you push through that and still maintain your body control, maintain your mentality? And that, for me, I found that to be a very effective way. And when, a lot of my people say they go to camp and get out of shape, they go to camp, they need to get back to better every day. They need to get back to the off season to get back in shape again, because the in-season training and typically a systematic, team training is really built for the masses of that team, not the elite athlete of that team. Right. So that's what we find a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, right? So I think if we take a look at traditionally some of the stuff, the exercises or the tests that the NFL athletes will do at the combine, right? And I think we both can admit that we've seen some of the best athletes in the world who are fantastic at their skill or their position, but then you get them to move like a simple overhead squat assessment, and it's just it's alarming how bad some of the best athletes in the world move, right? At what point along your journey in your career as a professional and strength and conditioning coach did you understand the importance of better movement and clean movement as it relates to an athlete's ability to get better?
Well, first off, this is a fantastic question. And the reason why it's a fantastic question is because, like I always say, basketball players, in my experience, because look, I've been doing this, 25 years now, right? So no longer am I speaking from my opinion. I'm doing my best to always speak from my experience, right? And in my experience with basketball players, the highest level has been that they are the worst moving individuals of all athletes, right? But saying that, they're also some of the most explosive athletic athletes of all the athletes. So you have to ask yourself, is perfect movement make you a perfect athlete? There's a trade-off there somewhere, right? Just like you might say, wow, that person's super flexible, but I'm not going to take Tyson Gay and try to make him as flexible as possible in his posterior chain, because then you lose some of that elasticity and explosiveness. So part of it is why they're brilliant, and the other part of it is where we need to be a brilliant movement specialist and identify what it is that is helping them and what is it that's hurting them, and be able to find the fine line. And for every athlete, it's a little bit different, right? So to answer your question, though, at what point did I realize movement was the key? I realized it very early on, but I guess I didn't realize how important it was until all the people that I looked up to, all the OGs in the game, all the people that have been legendary in the game, when I started listening to them and realizing, man, this is, I'm on the right track, because what I've identified through my own experiences are what they are, lecturing all over the world on right now. And I've been implementing that for some time. So it was reinforcement that I was on the right track. And if we always say movement is medicine, right? They used to have, 100 years ago, the medicine man pulled up to the house, and he would have a bladder full of stuffed with whatever. And he would say, hey, take this, lift this up and down 10 times, right? Move this side to side and use rotation, go side bend, front and back, and rotation, and do it 10 times each and see how it feels. Well, they call that a medicine ball, not because it was full of medicine, but because they used that movement and resistance as medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where medicine ball comes from. And if we can start to identify that us reinforcing great movement can help enhance whatever your activity is. If you're a mom of 3 that just needs to chase, the kids around to from Little League Park to soccer field, or if you're an NFL athlete, that needs to make sure that they can get a half a step on their 40. That's one of our things that we're trying to accomplish with people. We identify who needs what, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we make sure that we make movement the foundation. If you can move better, you can perform better. We just need to identify how much better you need to move to perform at whatever your particular task is.
Yeah. So would it be safe to say, Trevor, that you do some sort of movement assessment before you any program prescription for every athlete?
Well, I would say this. I would say for our general everyday folks that are coming in doing fitness classes and whatnot, we give them the option to do a movement assessment because some of them don't care about moving better. But what I've done is over a number of years, and I didn't realize this, where I used to evaluate everybody, right? And then what I would do is I would give them a movement prescription, if you will, of corrective exercises that say, hey, we're lacking in these 2 or 3 areas of movement. Do these 2 or 3 exercises every day for 5 minutes, and you're going to improve in these. But what I started to realize is that everybody needs the same handful of exercises. So what we have done as part of our culture at Better Every Day and everybody that I've touched is that we've incorporated all of those things that I've seen thousands of times for people to need as corrective exercises. And we've incorporated those into the daily routine. Our squat warm-up, our dynamic stability, our plank series where we get proper alignment of the pelvis. Like all of these things happen on it. And you've seen it, Dan. You've been to Better Every Day and done these same exercises. Maybe you didn't realize that that's just part of our culture and how we do because we've seen it to be true so many times. But if we can get people to get general foundational movement and activation patterns that are going to facilitate great movement and all the stuff that they do, you may not need to do a full, complete evaluation. But if I bring in a PGA Tour player, I want to know exactly what he does well, what he doesn't do well, and how we can lean on the stuff he does well to create success, and how we can slowly build up what he doesn't do as well to achieve even more success.
Yeah, I love that. I love that philosophy, right? Because it comes down sometimes for us as fitness professionals and strength and conditioning coaches is that, we know what they need, but sometimes we got to give them what we know they want, right?
Right.
So
got to give them that. Yeah.
They would get bored with doing corrective exercises. So I love the psychology behind that. Right? How can you take those exercises that we know they need and work and build them into a program that they know that they want, right? Let's give them what we want, the buy-in, and then just sneak that stuff in there, right? So
kind of
like there's agnostic programming and diagnostic programming. So maybe with your individual athletes, you want to go down the diagnostic route. You're doing a full, maybe you're using genetics or functional movement screening. I got to find out how this athlete moves from fingernails to toenails. But as I say, your average mom, they may not need to go that deep, right? But what we do know is that regardless of, as long as your body moves and it's in locomotion, right, TA? We ankle mobility, hip mobility, spine mobility, shoulder mobility, our ability to be able to resist flexion and extension and be in an upright posture.
Rotation.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. So, and some people may find those exercises boring, but I love the psychology behind that, TA. Just build it in. Maybe it's in a circuit. It's an active recovery station. Yeah. Right. They're moving, they're breathing, they're having to focus on coordination, but they're getting all these benefits that they don't know why, but it's just making them feel good. Right.
Exactly right. Exactly. Yeah.
I think if we can make
that's what we're.
Yeah. Go ahead, TA.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for. I think that's the art of coaching, right? My wife, when she feeds the dog, when she feeds our dogs, sometimes she has to give them a little pill for like heartworms or something like that, right? Well, she has to put like something that the dog likes, and then sneak in the heartworm pill, then it gets follow behind that with something else that she likes. I mean, listen,
I like that.
We are all built like that. We like what we like and we don't like what we don't like. But I think what makes a champion a lot of times is independent of anybody making them do it. They know that even though they don't like this is going to make them better, and they participate in this action. It's the commitment to participate, I think. in whatever they need to do to help them get better. That's the most important thing. The art of coaching is how can we get an athlete who may not particularly care for this certain thing, and we know they need it, and even though they know that they need it, we're the one, they need somebody to push them over the top without pushing them over the edge. Does that make sense?
I like that. Sometimes you got to wrap it up in peanut butter in order to get the people to love it.
There it is, man.
Bowman
understands that.
I love that analogy, TA. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you got to wrap up the heartworm pill in a little bit of peanut butter in amongst the regular people that they love to eat, and boom, it's the winner.
There it is.
I love it.
That's right. That's
the art of coaching. I love it. That, you know, that ability to connect, that ability to communicate.
Right.
And I think based on my experience, TA, and I'm not speaking for you, but I think you might agree, is that, you know, to be ability to program and give an exercise, you know, that's almost the easy part that we can do in like autopilot, right? But it's that ability to be aware and to connect and understand who's in front of you. And it's easy if you're one-on-one, but I've seen you on the field and in your facility with small and large groups. Now, to be able to communicate in amongst a large group of young athletes, call it 10, 20, 30, knowing they all have individual needs, they all have individual wants, individual capabilities. You know, what's your philosophy around managing a large group of people, knowing they all have individual needs and individual wants, and taking what we've talked about and integrating the art of coaching? You know, what would you say is a successful strategy for you around that?
The number one most important thing is to have clearly defined expectations, right? You let them know, here's what I'm going to say. Here's how I need you to respond. So when I come out, you've seen me at the Under Armour All-American every year. We have the 100 best football players in the country, right? High school football players. I say, hey, listen, when I say 2 claps, I need you to give me 2 claps. I said, you're going to know it's coming because I'm going to go, hey, like this, right? So I'm going to go, hey, 2 claps. And when I do it, come on, guys. Hey, we're better than that. This is football, right? Right? You guys are coachable, right? You guys are the best players in the country, baby. Come on. All right. Let's try it again. Hey, 2 claps. You do it 2 or 3 times. Now everybody's on the same page. And then I say, I'm going to ask you how you feel. You better tell me fired up. Okay. There's only one response. How y'all feel? Fired up. Come on, man. This is how you communicate. How'd you get here communicating like that? I need to hear your voice. How y'all feel? Fired up. Okay. So now in the first 30, 45 seconds, I've clearly defined exactly what I expect from them. And it also sets a tone for energy too, because I got to tell you, there's nowhere you can go where having a good energy is not contagious and doesn't add unto whatever you're trying to accomplish every single time. Anything that you want to accomplish can be done better, more efficiently, and at a higher level with better energy. So you have to be the energy creator, right? You have to be the guy that's facilitating that energy, right? So that's what I try to do right out of the gate. Plus, when you share that energy with them, you share enthusiasm with them, they tend to reciprocate that. Now, if you come out there, hey guys, all right, we're going to get warmed up today, you're going to have a dead morning. But if you come out and you show them energy and you get fired up and you get hyped up, it's not a show for me. It literally, I flip a switch because I need to show them the energy I expect from them. Yeah. You know, I don't say, hey, listen, you should respect me because I'm a coach and you need to give me energy because I'm the coach. No, I'm going to show you who I'm all about, you know, and come on, match my energy. Let's go, baby. Don't let me outwork you. And I think that whether it's 10 kids or it's 1,000 kids, I think you can really, or not just kids, but people. I've been in many environments where I fired up the crowds, and it's all about one singular voice with one specific command or expectation. All unison. And what happens is people get fired up when they hear that sound in a stadium. I remember we were in Baltimore one time in the M&T Bank Stadium, in Baltimore Ravens Stadium. I was like, hey, do clap. There's 250 kids in there and all the coaches, and you hear it. And, you know, obviously there's nobody in the crowd. The stadium was empty. But when you heard the echo, what? Everybody was like, ooh, like I love the sound. I said, you guys like that? Let's do that again. And if you can find a way to just spark something in an athlete, that's how you're going to get the best out of them every single time. And it's not just athletes, you know. I know it's a COVID time and things like this, but high fives are very effective. It might be air high fives now, or fist bumps or elbows. I don't even know what we're doing these days. But you've got to share energy to get the energy reciprocated. And that energy grows exponentially. It's a force multiplier. And then once you get inside of that thing and you go to the middle of the fire where the fire is the hottest, I'm telling you, the energy it's contagious, you know, and then it starts to spread like wildfire. Not to be insensitive of some of the wildfires that are happening now, but it really, really does. If you commit to energy, you can get a lot out of anybody. And you don't even have to be the top expert in the world to do so. You know, the best coaches in the world have been able to do that, right? Not necessarily by hooting and hollering, but by having clearly defined expectations for people to respond to.
You know, TA, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's one of the reasons that you know, our friendship has grown over the years. I think as we get older, we become more aware and more selective on who we want to spend our time with, right?
Yes.
And we want to be around energy givers, not energy takers, right? And I think that's, you know, you've been successful for many reasons, you know, your skill and what it is that you do. But I think that what encapsulates that as a sports performance coach, TA, and all the stuff that you do as an educator is just that your ability to connect, your ability to establish the ground rules, establish the expectations. And no one has a problem with expectations, right? As a parent, right? As a group fitness instructor, as a strength and conditioning coach, there are expectations around what it is that we want from people and that we want from life. I think that mutual respect is earned. It's not automatically given, right? And I think as fitness professionals and strength and conditioning coaches that, you know, we need to earn our athletes' respect and vice versa. It's not automatically given, you know, and I think that's why you've been successful both as a parent to two beautiful children who are incredibly athletic. My goodness, between Taj and Brian, I feel sorry for the athletes of the future that got to face those two guys on the field because, oh my goodness, Taj is an animal. How old is he now?
He's 11. Taj is 11.
He's 11, man. And oh, dude, like
it's a mentality though. Like for him, he's like I would say he's like a chihuahua, right? Like, you know, when you're walking your dogs, I have two big huskies, right? And the chihuahuas are like they're always barking like loud. Like if I let my dogs go, like they're really gonna do something, right? But the best thing about chihuahuas, they don't know they're small, right? They don't know they're small, so they just get in the mix and they go hard. And that's who he is. He trains with my NFL guys and my college guys and stuff. And it's like he doesn't know he's small. So when he faces anybody his age, you know, there's nothing he hasn't seen before. So, you know, and that's just, you know, that's a blessing to be able to have created an environment that allows him to come up like that. And the same thing was with Brian. He's just gotten a little, now he's actually one of the bigger people now. So
no, absolutely. So TA, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, some takeaways from this session with you is, you know, obviously there's what's important as a strength and conditioning coach, you know, proper movement, the right modality for the right sport with the right athlete. But I think what's really become more apparent to me today is just your ability to create an environment and a willingness for people to want to learn and grow, right? And that environment that you've created, not just in Orlando, Trevor, but all over the world, whether it's with the TRX cadre or the Under Armour training team or with SPRI or with GOLFleticism, you know, good things come to great people. And I think that beyond being one of the hardest working people in the industry that I know, you're just the salt of the earth. You know, you're deeply rooted in faith. You're deeply rooted in doing the right thing. And you also understand that success doesn't come overnight. It's a grind, right?
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Right. That true test of character and success is all the stuff behind the scenes that people don't see that we do. People see what's on social media or the 30-second Instagram, right? But they don't see the other 23 hours a day that you are grinding and learning and creating an environment for people to get better. And I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to call you a colleague and a brother. And I hope that I can be as good a father as you are to Taj and Brian. So thank you for
I just want to say this for people that are watching. Dan McDonough is one of the premier, not just movement specialists, but educators, motivators in the world at what he does. You know, he's a good interviewer, but he's an even better presenter, educator, and just a master of movement and all things fitness. Been trainer of the year and from many different organizations, and he's one of the absolute best presenters and educators in the world. So you guys have a treat listening to this guy. He's definitely more important than I am. And just the fact that he's with VertiMax, and you know, VertiMax is something that I've been watching the movement of for a very long time. And when this Raptor came out, I said, man, you know, I love it. You know, it's one of the products that I've asked Santa Claus for a long time. And you know, so Dan, thank you so much for taking the time, and for VertiMax for inviting me on, and creating just a platform to be able to reach people, and hopefully somebody learned something today. And you know, if even one person paid attention today, that's a victory for me.
Absolutely. All right. So sign us off, TA. Sign us off.
All right. All right. You guys got your hands ready? You got your hands ready?
All right. Thank you so much. Hey, TA, much love, health, and happiness to you and the family for Christmas.
Likewise.
And to all of you who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. From my home to yours, may your family have a healthy, happy, safe Christmas. I know it's a Christmas that not a lot of us were expecting, but I think what's really important right now, let's be thankful for what we do have, not what we don't have. There's a silver lining in every day. You just need to look for it. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. And we will see you soon on the next episode of VertiMax VIVE. Take care, everyone.